But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times, if one only remembers to turn on the light.
I have encountered death a few times. I have embraced the darkness and dismissed the light. I have lived my life in fear of many things: fear of failure, fear of trust, fear of life, fear of death, but most of all, fear of loneliness. I'm scared to be alone. This has taken me a long time to realize. It has taken my journey and friendship with death to come to terms with my fears. But my journeys are what made me who I am. My fears are what challenged me and made me stronger. The fear of being alone has developed my life views. I've realized through life experiences that I'm not alone. I have family, my boyfriend, and God. I've come to the conclusion that even though I've been to dark places, it is when I see people at their darkest, lowest points that I really get to know them. I've also found that you need to hit rock bottom sometimes to find that you are loved, to find that you are not alone. The first time I encountered death, I was a junior in high school. I was driving to visit my cousin at a birthday party when a drunk driver came towards me. It was the last snowing day in March. When I went towards the car, I swerved and flipped over into a ditch. I don't remember much of it, but I do know that there were two angels guiding my car. We found out later on that if my car had been 2 inches to the right, my head would have been smashed by one tree stump. If it had been 2 inches to the left, my head would have been smashed by another tree stump. I landed right in the middle. This is when I first found faith. This is when I first started believing in God. But it took a while to really realize my beliefs. All I knew is that someone had a plan for me. And I truly believe that God has a plan for everyone. Even though I might have not been able to see his plan right away, it took a little time to realize that he had a journey for me to set out. And this journey is what took me to where I am today. I believe in, believing. As simple as that sounds, God had a plan for me, but I just didn't know it yet. But that's the thing. God has a plan for everyone. His plan for us is to learn more about him and love him as much as he loves us. I began to have the fear that I had not done right by God. I felt like I was going against his plan. This fear drove deep into my spirit. The fear of God awakened the feelings of faith I had. Parker Palmer says, the fear that lets us know we're on the brink of real learning. That's what I had to realize. Palmer goes on to explain how we need to understand our fears to really learn from our fears. When I finally figured that out, faith came swiftly into my life. I was able to really learn about God and my faith. I was able to talk about my faith with people without hesitation. My father once told me that the fear of God is a good thing. We shouldn't be afraid to the extent where we're literally scared of God, but we should be aware of his power. This fear of God can make your faith grow and sprout into a beautiful life. To know God's plan for you, one must understand the fears to have fully trust in God. This trust will make your fears slowly disappear. God's plan is for us not to be afraid of trials that he's brought into our lives. He wants us to trust him so that we will make it out the way that he planned for us to. I bumped into death the summer before my senior year in college. It was in July on a Saturday. My family had gone to a pageant and my boyfriend went out with some friends. I was taking an online class and I was stressed out on my mind. I had a 10-page paper to write, plans to make up for work, and above all, I was doing it alone. I felt hopeless. I had no one to talk to, no one to encourage me, and no one to support me. I just wanted to give up. It's hard for me to talk about now because I can't even remember what was going on through my mind. I started with a knife, making small slits in my wrist. I remember the burning sensation, and it didn't help. I had cut myself before, and it usually made me feel better, but this time it didn't. So I thought to myself, how can I just make this pain go away? So I decided to take some of my mom's sleeping pills. I took a few of them, sipped them down with a beer, and lied down. Instantly I felt horrible. I couldn't die and not let my family know that I loved them. So I called my parents and my boyfriend and let them know what was going on. Oddly enough, my brother had just come home. My mom called him and he rushed up the stairs and made me take a cold shower, looked at the prescription bottle, and instantly realized that I hadn't taken enough to actually die. I don't look at this as a suicide attempt, though. It was more of a cry for help. My boyfriend came in running later. I will never forget his face of fear that he had lost me. He broke down in front of me after looking at the cuts on my wrists. He had never cried like that before, well, at least not in front of me. For the first time in a long time, I felt loved. Love can do strange things to people. There are different kinds of love. love for friends, family, significant others, even pets if you want. But this kind of love was different than I had ever felt before. This was a love that I knew was stronger than anything. This boy had seen me at the darkest points and still wanted to stay with me. Now that's real love. I think you need to see someone at their darkest points to truly know them. It is easy to see someone just at the surface level. Parker Palmer says, identity and integrity have as much to do with our shadows, limits, our wounds and fears as with our strengths and potentials. This means that to see someone's true identity and integrity, you need to understand their low times as well as their high times. Thinking about it more and more, I understand why some relationships of mine hadn't worked out because of this. Some people are so shut off from the world that it's really hard to get to know them. I'm not saying that everyone needs to be an open book, but I do believe that real friendships come out of those in which people in the relationship can be honest with each other about all things, and this includes the dark parts. I used to care a lot about what people thought about me. It was a problem. I would have such bad paranoia that I'd be scared what people were thinking and saying about me. I would come up with scenarios in my head about what others thought, and it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that things began to change. My junior year in college, I was at the peak of my bipolar. I just didn't know it yet. I had a lot of friends, but I felt so distant from all of them. I wouldn't shower, eat, sleep, or go to class. I lived an unhealthy lifestyle that was muted by the amount of alcohol consumed and cigarettes smoked. I had one close friend. She was basically my other half. We would hang out every day and binge watch TV shows instead of going to class. I was hopelessly unhappy. One day we were watching Gossip Girl and got the idea to make a Gossip Girl website of our own. So Gossip Squirrel was born. This website was up for 4 hours. In those 4 hours we had received a plethora of messages about gossip around Hope, and we posted it all, even if it was about one of our friends. We were ruthless. After I was confronted about the website, I immediately denied it. After 4 or 5 minutes, I realized that I needed to tell the truth. So I did. What ended up happening changed my world. Up to this point, my sorority was everything to me. I was rush chair and on my way to take a daughter that year. However, it was all taken away from me. Rightly so. What made it all even harder was the fact that the friend that I had done this with had dropped out of Hope immediately after the situation. She stopped talking to me, and so did other people after my confession. I had hurt so many, but I felt so hurt myself. Why would I even do that? The website doesn't describe me as a person. These are all thoughts that I had, but there was no turning back. You could say I went off the deep end. I stopped talking to everyone. I began drinking more and living a healthy less lifestyle. Because of what I did, I had to meet with the dean of students. This meeting changed my life. I thought going in that he was just going to yell at me or ask me why I was such a bad person. This didn't happen at all, actually. Instead, he believed in me. He advised me to switch my career path to education, to take a step back from the sorority, and to go to counseling services. Through counseling services, I was immediately told that there was a possibility of me being bipolar. Everything began to come together. My relationship with my friends, family, and boyfriend changed. People began to see me in a different light, a good light. Because of this incident, I found out I was bipolar. I found out that I wanted to be a teacher, and most of all, I found out who I really am. I'm not a paranoid human being who's scared of what everyone thinks of them. I'm a confident woman who's going to change the world someday. But it took me hitting rock bottom to realize that. This incident was the most alone I have ever felt, but it changed me. I believe that in many cases, hitting rock bottom can be the best thing to happen to a person. Parker Palmer talks about how there's a fear of not having people relate to you, and I understand this completely. When you hit the lowest point in your life, it is hard to find people to understand what you're going through. You feel ultimately alone. It takes hitting that all-time low to really grasp the learning you need to achieve. People around me wanted to see me succeed, but it took me hitting that bedrock layer to really listen to their advice, to really grasp that they loved me. Everything happens for a reason. When you hit that low point, you're meant to get back up and move toward success. If it weren't for me making stupid mistakes, I would have just continued messing up my life. I would have failed out of Hope, taken longer to find out I was bipolar, and I wouldn't have made real friendships. Friendships that can look past my flaws and see who I really am. Friendships that will last because of my past. Rock bottom was the best thing that ever happened to me. It just takes a while to get up again, but believe me, it is worth it. The website incident changed my life. On top of teaching me that you need to hit rock bottom to find success in other areas, it also taught me about trust and honesty. Before finding out I was bipolar, I lied a lot. I would lie about getting out of things, lie to make myself sound better, or even lie about my feelings so others wouldn't know the trouble that was going on in my life. I found peace with this when I went to Liverpool. I found myself lying in the beginning because I was away from home. I wanted to find friends. I thought lying would get me those friends, but I was wrong. It wasn't until I was honest about my life did I find true friendships. I met 4 individuals that cared about me with my inner demons and all. I would tell them about my childhood, my mental illness, and my ambitions, and they would welcome the news with open arms. The website incident was always a topic I was shy to talk about. These individuals were the first people outside my close sorority group of friends and my family that I told the incident about. I was scared out of my mind. I was shaking, and after I told them, I looked down and saw hands reaching out to comfort me. Honesty is important in relationships. To find real connections, you need to be honest with the people around you. This goes back to my fear of being alone. I lied in hopes that I would find friendships, when all I had to do was be honest with the people, and the friendships would find me. The 4 people from Liverpool changed my life. I found peace with people who actually wanted to spend time with me, people who cared if I was alone and sad. This all boiled down to the honesty I shared with them in the beginning. Parker Palmer says that having fears is genuine when you want to be popular around people. This was always a fear with me. I never wanted to be center stage, but I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be loved. Palmer says if we dare to move through our fear to practice knowing as a form of love, we might abandon our illusion of control and enter a partnership with the otherness of the world. For me, the otherness was honesty. I needed to practice loving and abandon the control obsession I had about relationships. To be honest with a person is to be loving a person. True love is honest. Honesty is the key and foundation of a healthy friendship, of a healthy relationship. Once you're open and honest about yourself, you will find that you're not as lonely as you think. You will find that you are loved for who you genuinely are. People that hear my story often wonder how I made it out, how I made it to who I am today. People look at me and wouldn't guess that I'm bipolar. They wouldn't guess that I tried to commit suicide. They wouldn't even guess that I would lie about everything in my life. But the fact of the matter is, I did. But why I don't do it anymore is because I want to be the good in the world. I want to be a good person. I want to be somebody that a child can look up to one day and say, they helped me out, they helped me make it. Frodo once asked Sam in Lord of the Rings, what are we holding on to, Sam? Sam said that there is some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and that it is worth fighting for. And that's what I believe, that there is some good in this world, and the fight is what makes it all worth it.